is this an exclusive? Have you told
I
the
have not.
So hello everyone and welcome to the Mic'd Up Podcast. My name is Kaya. I am an author, a poet, an entrepreneur, and now a podcaster. Today I am super excited about the guest I have joining me. If you do not know the name Joan Vassar, you certainly will after this podcast, and I urge you to look into her catalog. So we are going to get started with Joan. And I thank you for watching. And Joan, I thank you for joining. How are you doing today?
I am good, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to sit with me and talk about your catalog and your background and everything. I'm really interested and excited to dig into this with you. So I'm gonna go right into your bio and then we're gonna get right into the questions.
Okay.
Okay. A New York native, Joan Vassar is an avid reader and storyteller. Joan graduated from the High School of Graphic Communication Arts in NYC, which heightened her interest in journalism. She has always had the in-depth ability to astutely relate, interpret, and bring words to life. Joan works as a software analyst by day, but her true passion is storytelling. She enjoys writing narratives that bring life to the African American experience, both past and present. Joan is the author of Introduction to Love and Self, Unfortunately Francine, the Black Series, and Loving Africa. Joan says, I love to hear from my readers. When a man tells me that my character made him feel a heightened sense of pride, or a woman shares with me that she enjoyed the romance rarely seen between African Americans in literature, I know I've done my characters justice. Joan currently resides in Georgia and is happily weaving great tales. You can find Joan Vassar on her social media platforms, which I will go ahead and link in the description box. So again, a warm welcome to you. And before we get into the Q&A, I want to ask you, do you possibly remember meeting me last year at the house party?
I don't. And what
It's
happened
okay.
between us?
It's okay. It was a lot of people there, and that was almost a year ago. But yeah, I went to the house party, and when I believe it was the second day when it was at the where everyone did the 90s dress down and everything.
Right.
And I was very introverted, and I didn't realize how introverted I was until it came time for me to be around all these people. So literally for like the first 30 to 45 minutes, I was just walking inside and outside, not knowing what to say or who to talk to. And then eventually I said, you know what? I came all this way because I'm in Virginia. I said, I came all this way, and there are authors here that I am inspired by, that I appreciate, whose work I really love, and it would be shameful for me not to say anything. So I should have pulled up the picture. I did take a picture with you. And when I post the podcast, I'm going to insert the picture so you can see it. And I did buy a book, and I did get my book signed.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
here we go.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you were really nice. And I had asked you, maybe you'll remember this. I asked you, I told you that I follow you on Facebook on the Fort and Beyond. And I said, how come I think I said the words, how come you block people on your page, or how come you cancel people on your, like you break up with people? I said, how come
Right.
you break up with people on your page? And
Mhm.
I forget what you said, but that was kind of like my icebreaker. But I was
You
like,
know
how come
what?
you be
You're the
breaking
only
up with
person
people
that
on your
asked me
page?
that, and I do remember you now. I do.
What's that?
I said you're the only person that asked me that, so I do remember it now.
Okay.
And only one other person asked me about breaking up, and she said, "Can you break up with me today?" I said, "I'm gonna break up with you right now." And I went on my Facebook page, and then you came and said, "Why did you do that?" And I do remember that now. Oh my goodness!
That was, yeah,
Wow!
that was me. And you said, I think I'm gonna break up with you, but you said, but I don't think you can handle it. And I was like, I said, I can't. And so I did. I went on your page and I commented on something you posted, and you said, wasn't I supposed to break up with you? And I was like, who, me? And I just kind of, backed out
Oh
of it.
my
But
goodness!
yeah, but it was fun. And everyone that I met there was, really, really nice and inviting and had a good energy. So, yep, I met you there. So this is our
Wow,
second meeting. Yep, yep.
that's nice. That's
Uh-huh.
nice.
Yep. Alrighty, so we are going to get right into the Q&A so we can learn more about you, your background, your inspirations, and everything like that, because I'll start off by saying this. I think that you are a phenomenal writer, and I don't say that lightly. The way that you're able to tell stories, create characters, and draw the readers and the audience in with your words is like something I haven't experienced before. And it's so, I don't know, I really don't know the word, but it's so engaging. And like, I just haven't experienced it before. That's why I said at the onset, like, if you haven't read or listened to a Joan Vassar work or anything, you definitely need to. So I just want to say that and let you know that you're definitely an inspiration to me.
Wow! Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So my first question I have for you is, when did you know you were a writer?
Looking back now, I it was third grade, and I don't know that I was calling it a writer, but I knew that I liked storytelling, and so when I got older, I kept saying, in middle school, and I kept saying I want to be a journalist, because I guess my brain was on this is the writing that I could do. And then when I went to high school in Manhattan, I went to, in those days, in the 80s, these were called trade schools. And you
Mm.
finished up at trade school, and then you went, it was a high school still, but you then would move on to college or whatever, but you would start that trade in high school. And I went to a school that broke down into three parts. One part was journalism,
Mm.
one part was printing, and the other part was newspaper. Um, and I think along the way, I realized that while I like writing, I don't want to be told what to write. I want to be able to try to figure it out. So it started in a third grade, definitely. And I think my first major story was a Halloween story
Mm.
that I read in front of the class, and everybody was engrossed. So I caught the bug right from there.
Okay. Okay. Well, you say everyone was engrossed. Like, what what did they do? Like, what was the reaction or the feedback that you got that made you
Well,
say, this
well,
is
these were
something?
third graders.
Right, they're third
So,
graders.
right. So they wanted me to read the story again.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like, okay, I could probably get with this. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's how you got the bug. Okay. So you said you started in the third grade and that at that age, I would think that you really didn't have any influences, but as you got older and started writing more, who were your influences when you did get into writing as you got older?
So I think the first novel that I ever read all the way through was "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret"
Okay.
by Judy Blume,
Okay.
and then my mother read a lot of books, Jackie Collins and those things. And so whenever she wasn't looking, I was sneaking her books.
Mm,
And so that is what got me in. I don't know that I felt inspired. I know that I loved romance. And in those days, there was not a lot of black romance. So you wanted to read romance. So you read what was available. And
mm-hmm.
so I think when I got in my early 20s, I think I might have been about 22 when I started thinking to myself, I probably should write a romantic novel. And my ex-husband used to tell me all the time. I mean, I said there are just no stories about us, and my ex-husband said you're gonna have to write them if you want to read them. And I was thinking to myself, he doesn't know what he's talking about, but I learned later that he was actually right. Yeah.
Mm, okay. Well, so in your early 20s, did you actually write the novel? Or it was just at that point, it was just a thought?
It was just a thought. I don't think I actually buckled down until I was in my early 30s to write Introduction to Love and Self. And the experience was a good one, but I think my grandmother had just died, and I don't even think it was my early 30s. I think it was my late 30s, like 36.
Mm,
And I had started writing and thought, I probably need to buckle down. And I wrote two books, one called Fair Exchange and one called Introduction to Love and Self. Fair Exchange is still on my laptop. I've never done anything with it. I think it's like 86,000 words.
mm,
And then when I put out Introduction to Love and Self, and it was, right during the time that I was going through a divorce. So I, stepped away from writing for about, mm, oh, I would think it was probably about another 10 years
mm,
before I actually buckled down. But what I will say, I did attempt to write Black in
mm.
2000, and I got 50,000 words in and started trying to shop it. And, the industry kept telling me nobody would want to read this. And in some instances, I never got a response. And in a couple of instances, they were like, this is not anything we're looking for. And I didn't really understand a lot
Right.
about writing. So um, I want to say I was actually 45 before I said I'm going to actually um, go back to Black and start from scratch and write it. And when I wrote Black, it was intended to just be one novel, but
Mm,
it it, it just
it
it
grew.
morphed. Yes, it did. The character was
Yeah.
such a great character that I would finish the book and then think this is it. But as I was getting toward the end of the book, I would be thinking, oh my God, I can see
Yeah.
another prologue. And so yeah, that's my. I mean, it took a little bit, but I know that at 21, 22 is when I kept saying I want to do it, but it was still in my 30s before I actually had the courage to do it.
Do you regret not doing it then? Or do you think when you did it was the right time?
So, writing is a funny thing. There are probably some regrets about not buckling down and doing the work. But one thing about writing, it gets better the older you get. It is the
Mm,
one profession that the older you get, the more you understand yourself and the world around you, the better your storytelling gets. So I imagine that it happened when it was supposed to happen.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned Black, which led into the Black series,
Mm-hmm.
which Black was my first listen by you. And
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it because I wanted, I was listening to romance a lot and I wanted to listen to something different. And I was reading the reviews. I really don't read reviews too much now, but I was reading the reviews on it, and it was so up and down with the reviews. Some people was, oh, I love it, and some people was like, oh, well, I don't want to deal with slavery, and I'm just like,
Right.
yeah. Well, so I just kind of like, well, when I saw it in the saw it online enough where people that I am like friends with or groups that I follow kept talking about it. I said, well, let me go on and give it a try. And then I saw it was narrated by Jacoby Diem. And I was like, well, he doesn't miss. So let me, let me give it
Mm-hmm.
a try. And like almost immediately I was like, I was I was invested like within the first 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, I don't know where this story is going to go, but I really enjoyed the historical fiction aspect of what you were doing because I hadn't experienced that up until that point. So my next question is, what do you consider your genre to be?
Well, that is an actual excellent question because I love romance, and the sappier the romance, the more bubblegum the romance. Um, I love it, and I read all books, black, white. If it's a good story, I read it.
Mhm.
And So I considered myself a romance writer, and I was dealing with this editor who said, you have here historical romance. And I said, I think it is. She said, I don't think so. I think it has romance aspects in it, but I think that you write historical fiction, and I think you're boxing yourself in by writing romance. And I was offended because I'm trying to write romance. And so I went to my daughter, who reads a lot, my oldest daughter, and I said, "This is what they're saying." And I think I write romance. And my daughter bust out laughing. And my daughter said, yeah, but the character doesn't come to the plantation, threaten to burn it down, then run off with all of the people, and then come back whenever the hell he feels like it, and just does whatever he wants. Yeah, that's not romance. And I said, okay. And even still, I was still hurt. So when I went into book two, you know, I I think I'm writing a romance. And my daughter said, yeah, book two has a lot of romance in it, but this is not a romance. And so I don't know. I don't know if I'm a romance writer, if I'm an adventurer, if I'm historical fiction, if I'm historical. I don't know. I What happens for me is I attempt to tell a romance, but and then of course my readers are always laughing because I'm always killing off somebody or doing something in the prologue, so nobody trusts me. So, and I don't think you could step into uh, a romance. Like my best friend, Alexandria House, she writes romance, and I love it.
Mhm.
Um, I would like to consider myself a romance a writer, but I have somehow found myself telling historical fiction that actually depicts Black life. And so my motto has always been, the conditions are real, the story is fiction.
Hmm.
And that's my motto when I write, and I shoot for that when I'm telling Black stories. And I think it's important. And again, I if it's a good book, I read it. I don't only read Black books, but I I want to write Black books.
Mhm.
um, Women are my muse. um, And I want to write to entertain Black women, but I also want to entertain anybody who's looking for a good story.
Mm,
But I do write, and this comes from a place of experience of growing up, and there were no Black romances really, and so I want to write Black books.
okay. When I was coming up with the questions to ask you for this podcast, and I came up with the question of what is your genre, I couldn't really think of what I would feel your genre is because I feel like you are your genre, like you, because you have a way that's uniquely you that I haven't encountered that someone else is able to do quite the way you do it. So you, to me, you are a genre. I don't know if
Wow.
that makes sense.
It does, because I can't even answer the question. And
Yeah.
I don't I don't this new book that I have coming out called Sweet Honesty
Mhm.
is a romantic novel. My goal for this novel coming out on the first was that it be a romance. And I found um, that it was, when you write historically, as a Black person, it's difficult because your goal is not to traumatize the audience.
Mhm.
Your goal is to tell them a good story and show them Black people living in adversity but still persevering. That is always my formula. Yeah.
Yes, and I think you have a good balance of that because as I was listening to the Black series, you know, terrible things will happen, obviously, but there was something good coming out on the other side. So it's just like, it will bring my emotions down where I'm thinking, the worst of everything. And then, you find a way to bring the readers right back up. So I think you do really well um in balancing that. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
mhm. um so my next question is, when you think back to your first project or your first book, how would you say you've grown as a writer slash storyteller?
Well, one of the things that a lot of people don't know about me, I did a year, well, not a year, I did um, a semester in college and did not like it and left college. So I really have a high school education. And so when I stepped into this writing thing, I had to really buckle down. And what I did was I went to a company to have my book published. But what I did was I paid close attention to the things that they could teach. And then I went out and I bought a lot of different books because I do have a good command of the English language. So I said, well, let me attempt to teach myself.
Mm.
So if I look back at my first project, so I can give you a really good example.
Okay.
Love in Africa
Mm-hmm.
is a book that I wrote um, 9 years ago,
Mm.
and I really just published it. So Alex and I were talking, and I said I have a book on my thing. I have two books, and I really need to be publishing them. And so Alex said, "You got a book?" She said, "How many words is it?" I said, "It's 86,000 words." And she said, "And you just did nothing with it?" I said, "I mean, I got caught up in the Black series, and because of that, I didn't have time." So she said, "Well, you finished The Fort. Are you going to do this book?" I said, "I do want to do this book. It takes place in Queens, New York, and it's in the 80s, and I'm gonna buckle down." Well, when I opened up the book,
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind, excuse me, that my writing has since grown. So as I'm reading it, I'm looking at all the mechanical issues and I'm thinking to myself,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do a developmental edit on myself. And I was frustrated because I had to take the whole novel apart.
Yeah.
I had to parse out point of view, which was a major issue for me.
Oh, wow.
Point of view. And point of view when you're writing is a very big deal.
Yeah.
The reader has to know whose point of view it is. And when you're in a point of view, you don't move abruptly to another point of view.
Yep.
And I see those mechanics that were even in my some of my early work, even after I began to realize this. And so I had to start really thinking. One of the things that is a golden rule for me, and it just is in writing, when you write a book, you can tell whose point of view the scene should be in
Mm-hmm.
by the character who has the most to lose or the most to gain.
Oh, okay.
That's how you can tell. Should it be from her point of view? Should it be from his point of view? Should it be from the kid's point of view? It is that is pivotal. And I'll give you an example even later. When I was writing the sex scene between Callie and Jeremiah,
Mm-hmm.
that original scene was from his point of view. And what ended up happening when I went back and read it, the scene had no value
Yep.
because women are my readers, so they want to see him. So I had to go back and revamp the scene from her point of view so that you could see the black cracker as he's making love to her. And so point of view was something that I struggled with. And I found that once I mastered point of view, my writing became stronger.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. You dropping jewels. You dropping jewels on me. You really are. And I have to pause and kind of chuckle at the name the Black Cracker. That, yeah. Yeah. I like that. But okay, that makes sense. So very important question. How do you determine your your content and storyline? Because we've already kind of discussed you're kind of your own genre, and you want to, your goal is to write romance. How do you come up with these storylines? Because they're all so varied.
So, one of the things I do, I'm thankful. I am not a writer who deals with writer's block,
Mm,
and I think that writers mistake writer's block for a technique, and here's why I say that.
mm,
When I'm not writing, I read articles about life, about people, Dear Abby. You get ideas from anywhere,
you do.
right?
Yeah.
So I read, I remember I had this magazine on my desk because I also work a full time job. I
Hmm.
am a software analyst. And I got this magazine called Jealousy.
Okay.
And and let me tell you, I couldn't even find that magazine on my desk because somebody kept borrowing it. You know, um, Dear Abby, Dear Therapist, Dear Prudence, just articles. So that's one thing. So that keeps your mind going. The
Hmm.
other thing that I am not, and I thought I was, there's a lot of things I thought about myself as a writer that as I get older in this business, I realize different things. I am not a person who is a pantser. I thought I was. I'm a person who is always thinking and plotting a story in my head. And I am also a person who does not sit down until I know where the book is going and possibly even the last scene.
Mm.
So when I sit down, I don't stare at a blinking cursor. I always know where the story is going because I'm planning. one of the things that I think as a writer that's important is that people have to know, I would say, about two or three things. One, what is the most productive time of day for you? That is key. When you're writing, your productive time, mine is between 4 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And
Mm,
so, and sometimes that may fluctuate, but for the most part, that's my productive time. So I work within that window because that's when my thoughts are the most crystal clear.
mm,
Two, um, you have to know what drives you, right? So I have figured out that I'm a person who plans in my head. And three, I don't write notes. Note taking is not something I do well, and
mm,
note taking would tire me out. And what I would have is a bunch of notes, and I would not have a book. So I work out the scene in my head, and then I move on to the next scene. While I'm typing that scene, another scene is happening. Now, this is what happens for me. It
mhm,
doesn't mean that it would happen for everyone else. And the
mhm,
key is to know how, when to tap into your creativity, and then you can get it on paper.
mm. That is so interesting that you don't take notes because you write so in depth. Like
I do, but I
you-
don't take notes.
that is very fascinating to me. It's impressive,
I like,
actually.
if you like, I had a young man ask me, so where, and I think Alexandria did too when I first met her, where are your notes for the Black series? I said, I don't have any. What
That
I had, what I had for the Black series were a series of maps all around my house, and those maps talked about what were the slave states and what weren't the slave states. Those were, and the only other thing I had was a list of the men that ran with Black, so that I could keep those things straight. But I don't map out stories. It doesn't work for me. If I sat down and mapped out every story, um, I would I would not write anything. Now, what I will tell you is I talk them out with my daughter, my older daughter, with my younger daughter,
mm,
with my sons, and Alexandria, my editor. I like to talk about, what I think the story is gonna do, but I don't make notes. And what happens is, when I get in a scene, until that scene gets on paper, I constantly find myself talking about that scene, even if it's just to myself. So, this is what I got to do. This is what needs to
mm.
happen. This is what, but I don't. I have a cousin who takes a lot of notes, and he said, Joan, I take so many notes, I don't get anything done.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't, I can't.
yeah, it can be
Um,
counterproductive.
Right. But I know people who take notes and do real well. My buddy Kennedy Ryan, she is a note taker and
Mm,
she does real well. It just, notes don't do well for me. And keep in mind that writing styles vary between people.
mhm,
But I don't take notes because it hinders me. And what I will tell you is, and it's probably part of a learning disability if I had to really think about it. Even
mm,
in high school, I was not a note taker. If I had to stop and take notes, I would not understand what the teacher was saying. I had to focus in on what he was saying or she was
gotcha.
saying. The other thing, I will tell you, is that when I'm writing a book, I really don't engage other people. So
Mhm,
it's not hard to not, um, to be in depth with the story, because when I'm writing a book, I'm reclusive. So all I think about is the book, and I roll out of bed and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm typing. My daughter comes in here, I'm asleep. Now I'm typing again. But
right,
and then I could be in the house with my daughter and not see her for 2 days because I'm stuck in the scene. So there are a lot of things that happen that 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 go along with not making notes, but I'm shut off from the world until I can get that on paper. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
my brain won't let me deal with anything else.
Yeah. Now, the way that you write, you said you become reclusive. That has to take a lot out of you.
It does.
So how do you stay motivated during that process?
So, like video games, writing is addictive. It
Mm,
has it's I was watching a wildlife show. I can't remember what it was, but there were these frogs, and the frogs were making this sound.
mm,
But because they were making the sound, they were also being picked off by predators,
mm,
right? But their need to make this sound was stronger than not being caught by a predator. And so with my writing, it's a must. It has to be done. If and normally what happens is when I finish a book, I fall right into another one, because usually by the time I get to the end of the book, I've already started plotting something else, because this book I don't have to think about anymore because I've already mapped it out to the last word.
wow.
So what happens for me is I go right into another book. But if I don't go right into another book, and I sit around and do nothing, then I kind of sleep a little bit and get myself together. But with every book, when I'm finished, I go through a slight depression,
Mhm.
and that lasts probably about a week or two, because what happens is, I, for me, and I don't know if this is true for other people, I would imagine that there are some people in the world that might be like this as writers. When you're a writer, you're an actor,
Mm,
and you are acting out the scenes
yeah.
in your head. You're either the female character, the male character, even the baby. You're
Hmm.
even the baby. So you
Yeah.
gotta, you know, and so as your characters go through things, so do
Right.
you,
Right.
right?
Right.
And when you finish writing, it can be depressing because you're disconnecting from those characters. So when I start a new book, start working on new characters, it's like when you're coming down the hall and your mother says, so and so's on the phone, say hi. And you
Mm,
don't even really know them. And so it's awkward.
right.
And so when I sit down with new characters, it's like meeting new people, and it's awkward for a little bit until me and the character gets to know each other. So there's some depression that happens. And then when the readers get it, the depression lifts because the work seems flat to me, because this is the work I've done. There's no magic, and that magic is the readers.
Oh, got it. Okay. Okay. I love your analogies, by the way. Yeah, good
Thank you.
analogies. Um, so you go through a grieving process at the end of at the end of your project, and
Yep.
kind of like a rebirth when you start anew. Would that
Yes.
be accurate? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Well said. Yep.
Okay. How long does it typically take you to write um a project? I know your books vary in length, but typically how long, does it run for you?
So I write slow. So a book could take me up to 16 weeks to write. Um,
That's slow.
and that's kind of slow, because I see some of these young ladies turning out books
Oh yeah.
fast, and they do good books. I am a very slow writer. And so let's say, um, in April of 2023,
Mm.
I finished Ignite. And then I wrote Sweet Honesty. I finished that in June,
Okay.
and then I started the second book called Bittersweet, and I would say in December. I didn't finish that book until like 2 weeks ago. So I probably have written 4 books. But I mean, I'm seeing some young ladies turn out a book a month,
Oh
and
yeah.
these are sizable books, and they're good books. I can't do, like, my brain. I'm old now. I probably could have done it if I was younger, but I'm old now, so I am so impressed by them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm. You know what? I am also impressed with the younger writers simply because they were not like me sitting around waiting for a black story. They are making them, and I love that about them. I am so impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think the community, the literary community is very encouraging and inspiring. And you can look around and you can find pretty much anything that you're looking for. If you're looking for a particular type of romance, there is an author out there writing it. It's so much out there. It really
Yeah.
it really, really is. And it seems like it grows every day. It just seems like, more and more people are, I won't say taking the lead, but are leaning into their abilities and really just
Yes.
putting themselves out there. And it's something to see. At times it's just like, for me, I'm looking like, well, I never heard of this person. Where did that person come from? And it's like
Right.
I'm always discovering someone new because it's like it's so abundant now. So I think that's a great thing because there'll never be, to me, there'll never be like a lapse in, not a lapse, but you'll always have something to read and there'll always be
Yeah.
something to discover. And even a book that someone wrote that's 3 years old will still be new to somebody you know
Right.
so yeah, it really is. Like, I feel like it's a thriving community, and I like seeing that. So
I love seeing, and I love being a part of it. I'm
yeah.
I'm glad to be young enough to be part of it and old enough to appreciate it because I
Yeah.
remember when. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to also say, when you're saying you're a slow writer, but I think it kind of is on how you look at it, because if you finish a project and you go and you roll right into another one, you kind of don't have a lapse in projects. Well, you say that it's slow. I kind of feel like, you have a good rhythm going with that. Um, I feel like it's a good rhythm, but
And I appreciate that. Alex tells me that all the time because
it
I'm always, yeah, she says, well, you get, so this time I have finished this book and I have done nothing for 2 weeks. I don't even know what to do with myself. And Alex is so proud of me. And I am just sitting around twiddling my thumbs, but my back hurts, my feet hurt because, you're sitting all day. So
right.
that takes a toll on you. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm happy to have done this 2 weeks, but that, the vacation part of it is up. I am get ready to. I have a novella that I started, and I'm 17,000 words in, and I owe probably about another 13 to 15,000 words, and I can do about 10,000 words a week. And so I am hoping to try to close that out.
Okay. See, you just keep it going. You keep it going. So, yeah, I think you move at a really good pace with the way that you write. Um, my next question I have for you is, how has the relationships you've made within the literary community inspired you? You've already talked about Miss Alexandria House, share, had your friendship with her, but how has your community helped you or inspired you or lifted you up or helped you grow?
So I have gotten a lot of inspiration from readers. They appreciate the work, which in turn keeps me writing. And I love that. And because let's face it, I write in a genre that most people are afraid to touch. So a lot of people buy the book and keep it for months because they don't want to deal with slavery. And then when they read the books, they're like, this is not what I thought. So I'm usually that author that people have had on their to be read list for a long time. And then when they do read it, they contact me and be like, what is this? I didn't know. I didn't know. So when you write in the areas that I write, oftentimes um, the appreciation for this type of work is slow, but it happens.
Yeah,
Um,
it
and
has to
so
be.
yeah, and I get a lot of people who tell me I bought this book and was not interested in reading about slavery, and I'm like I get it, I get it, and so with that being said, I think that you know I think that in the inspirations that I get come from the people who read me and think they wouldn't like it but end up loving it. The people who tell a friend you got to read this book. The
Yes.
people who inbox me and say I bought this book 5 times, but I got to buy it 2 more times because I have 2 more friends. It's also why I try to show up to book clubs and things when people ask. I, I I very rarely say no. The readers are so wonderful,
Yeah.
and they show up to the plate. They buy the work. They're so embracing of the work, and
Yeah.
that in and of itself makes me want to continue to tell stories to Black women. Um, and then um, and then Alexandria House and I, we laugh and we giggle. We started Audio in Black, um, and it was just out of a need. When I saw what it was like to put a book up on Audible, I said to Alex, "You think we could probably bring a few people up on Audible who have never been on Audible before, and shoulder the cost?" And Alex said, "If that's what you want to do." So she has been wonderful. Audio in Black is definitely bigger than we thought it would be. Um, it celebrates Black books,
Mm.
not only romance. We have a group of readers who come through and read through all genres. We post their reviews, um, and we just did an interview with Wesley Siobhan. I mean, so the inspiration is all over the place. It's being invited on Mic'd Up. That's an inspiration. I love it. I love when people think enough of me to discuss my work on their platform. It is moving.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I'm glad that well, I'm just glad that you're here talking to me. So, um I forget what I was going to say. As far as Audio in Black, I did have questions about that coming,
Okay.
but since you brought it up, you all have rated some of my books from Audio in Black, and
Uh-huh.
I won the North Star Award one time. So let me just pat myself.
Really?
I did.
Wow.
I
Okay.
did, but it was under my alias though. But
Okay.
yeah, I did. So, um, yeah, we'll for sure get into more about Audio in Black. But yeah, I think I love what you ladies are doing over there. Um, so this kind of ties into Audio Black. My next question: how do you feel that audiobooks have impacted your career? And a tag on to that is, how did you meet, or how did you come form a partnership with Jacoby Diem?
So Um, that's a good one because I had listened to a sample of a book that he did,
Uh-huh.
and and I thought he is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And so, of course, I couldn't afford him. So it took me 3 years to save up the money to um, to get him and be able to pay for him. So what I did, um, the poor man probably didn't know that I was just sampling everything that he did and just loving his voice. And I was just in the background being a fan of his and too scared to talk to him.
Yeah.
And so I had my cousin send him an email
Oh no.
and ask, right, yeah, because, I was too scared to do it myself and I was independent. So I didn't think he would want to
Right.
um, do the work. And so she sent him an email, and 2 days went by. And I'm calling. I said, "Did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? Did you hear
Right.
anything?" And she said, "No, no, no." And I said, "Okay, I'm just going to send him an email." So I sent him an email and I said, "Would you please?" And he said, it took like another day maybe.
Mhm.
And he said, "I've researched it. I would be happy to do the whole series." And girl, I think I laid flat. I just fell right out of the office chair, flat on the floor.
Get out
And
of here.
yes, and so he um, agreed to do the Black series, and I was extremely moved. And I don't know what to say about him. The work was so well done that I absolutely appreciated, um, loved what he did with the work, and him as a person I adore. And so he's a wonderful person, and I just was so pleased about what he had done
Right.
with the Black series, and he was just always Johnny on the spot. He did the series, and he and I think, were both sad when the series came to an end,
Mm,
because originally he was supposed to have the whole series done by February 2021,
mhm.
and he dragged it all the way out to 2022. And
Aw.
so he wouldn't let me get done with him. But so meeting him was a wonderful experience. Working with him was a wonderful experience. And to be honest, the work that I have done with him has been the highlight of my career.
Oh, wow.
Been the highlight. Bringing the Black series to Audible and listening to him do Black. And even when I wrote the last book, I had not started writing it when he agreed to do the series, and there were 4 books at the time. Um, so when I stepped into it, I leaned into writing around his voice. But the first time that I heard him, I was writing, I was finishing up Black. And
Mhm.
so, to some degree, his voice was always in my head as I was doing the work for the rest of the books. But the fort in particular was written around what he could do with the character Black. And I mean, I don't think I think to say that I am so grateful and so thankful to have worked with him. Um, that's just really kind of an understatement. I don't know how to say bigger that I appreciate what he did for the Black series, because
Yeah.
he was wonderful. And I know that when people listen to it, you forget it was one person.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I see that feedback a lot on your social media pages when people are talking about the series, how he just weaves in and out of characters so effortlessly. And
yeah,
but you really do think you're listening to like 10 different people. You honestly do. And know exactly who it is just by the way he changes, the inflection or the tone. Like, exactly who it is. It's just like he, yeah, he did amazing in that
And
series.
I and I and I'll tell you something. Um, the scene at the end of book 2, where Black, Albert, and James are having a conversation, and it just sounds like three different men standing there. And I remember I broke down and cried. I mean, he took it. I mean, he understood the assignment.
I almost got myself killed. I almost got both of you killed. You should have left me. We are brothers. There was no other option, Black said, understanding James's pain. You were alive, and the only choice was keeping you alive. Black and I will not apologize for that, Albert said. James stared at them, attempting not to escalate. Black smiled before saying, "We have only each other."
And um, and the exchanges between um, Black and the ambassador, um, with his British accent, and he's going back and forth. And I remember thinking to myself, and I remember the first time I talked to him on the phone, I couldn't even get myself together. I was so fangirling about him and just what he can do. And I just find him to be so incredibly talented. And I am so incredibly thankful for having the opportunity to work with him. And I don't even know any other word. Like I said, it's an understatement. He's fabulous.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad that you were able to get him for your project. And because that's who you wanted. So I'm glad everything came
Worked
together
out.
for you
Mhm.
and it turned out the way that it did. Like, it is just that whole series is like amazing. I always recommend it to people, and they have kind of the same reaction that I had when I first heard about it. It's just like, oh, slavery. I'm like, no, but you have to listen to it. It's not a book about slavery. You know what I mean? That's not what the book is. Like, and I'd be, telling people as well, but and then the narration. Oh my gosh. Oh my.
I mean, is he not when he's Big Mama? You don't even know what to do with yourself because he actually sounds like a little old lady. Like I
Mhm.
don't know, and I'm gonna tell you, I had a lot of that he may not know. I had a lot of cry moments when I was listening to the book, and I have another really great point when we get to book 5, and I have Virgil and Percy in the book. And I said to him, I have a gay couple. Do you not want to read that? And he said, No, I'm a professional. I'm going to read whatever you wrote. And I remember thinking, Do you want me to change anything? And he said, I'll think about it. But if you don't want to change anything, I'll read what you wrote. And I found that endearing. And so it made me a lot more flexible with him on other projects because he was so wonderful with me for the work that he did with the Black series. Unfortunately, I don't have anything else for him
Right.
to do, but he is he's still the highlight of my career. Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I'm glad for you, and I'm glad for him as well. But I'm really glad for you that you have that as part of your, I don't want to say legacy, but as part of your catalog. I'm glad for you.
Me too. Thank you so much. Yeah, me too.
Yep. So I have a few more questions here. Um, we already touched on audio in Black.
Mhm.
Tell me um, what you and Alexandria House's mission is with Audio in Black, and anything you may have coming forward, well, coming up with Audio in Black.
So we plan on interviewing some authors and some narrators.
Okay.
We also plan on bringing people, a couple of authors that have never been on Audible, bringing them up on Audible. We like to showcase Black books. We like to showcase books that are not on Audible, but we think are great and should be on Audible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we we review books, and Alexandria and I don't. We actually have a reviewing team of great ladies who, even when we don't meet with them for months, they turn their reviews in and say, "Listen, that's what I read. It's a children's book," and I love that they attempt to be diverse. And I'm not going to read a romance. I'm going to read this month, and I'm going to review it, and that has been wonderful. Alexandria works very hard, um, keeping the website maintained. When new books come out by Black authors, and even old books that she can think of, we pull them over, and it's connected straight to where you can purchase the books.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't just have the book up for show. If you click it, you'll end up on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, somewhere where you can buy the book. Um, and so we are happy to support Black art. And we work in an industry where, even with the women being the way they are, where they are out there in the forefront and they are writing the Black books and writing the Black romances and all of those things, we still are in an industry that is still struggling to accept Black characters. So we are thankful to have Audio in Black, and we are thankful to be a place where people can come and put their credentials up and say, "Hey, I'm a narrator. Hey, um, I see my book is up." Just all of that, and I think we're doing a good job of just kind of being a presence
Yeah.
in the Black literary world, where we're saying, "Hey, there are people who write Black books, and we write them in all genres, in horror, in street lit, in romance, in nonfiction. We are out there in mystery, and we just want to showcase that."
Okay. Yeah, I definitely go on the site and see what you all got, and I support the social media pages as well. And for anyone interested, it's audioinblack.com, and the link to go to that site will be in the description box of this podcast. So if you're looking for Black authors, Black stories, Black narrators, um, Audio in Black is a really awesome resource. So go ahead and check that out. So I hope, I wish continued success for Audio in Black. I just hope that it grows and grows and grows. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Couple more questions here for you.
Okay.
Um, you touched on earlier your next release called
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Honesty.
Mm-hmm.
What can you, and I almost asked you if I could get a chapter sample of it, but I'm like, no, I didn't want to do that. I almost did because I wanted to get a little taste of it. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I did want to do it, but I didn't. But what can you tell us about your book, your book, Sweet Honesty, which by the time this podcast is released, it will be available. What can you tell us or tell me about that book?
So, Sweet Honesty is and I hate to say gay romance, because really it's just a romance. But um, some people may give you a hard time because you've written this kind of work, but I love love, and I love reading about it. I love writing about it, and I don't care who's in love. I love romance. And
Mm.
so I have written a gay romance that takes place in 1950 in Corona, New York. Um, and it was a different experience. And also, I wanted to go way left. I mean, I've done the Black series, and I love Black men, no matter their sexual orientation. I love Black men, and so I want to tell great stories about great Black men. And so this was, and I had thought about, should I tell the story now? And Alexandria said to me, you, I don't care what time you go back to. You need to go back in time. You do historical fiction so well. And I
Mm.
said, I don't know. And I picked 1950. Um, so this story is about two young men who are finding themselves and understanding love and family, and what it means to be supportive, and what it means to be their authentic self. And that's hard for the time, because 1950 is a time in Georgia where one of my characters is from, where the law for homosexuality, and I say homosexuality because I'm consistent with the time,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it is punishable in Georgia by 10 years in jail.
Mm.
And so in New York City on April 11th, 1950, it becomes a misdemeanor and 6 months in jail. And it's an opportunity to live a different life. When New York changes that law to a misdemeanor, Georgia doubled down for on their law and made it 20 years. And it stayed that way till 1980 something, maybe the late 80s, 86,
Wow.
87. Yeah. And so you'll see some challenges, the same way you see in the Black series, but for the most part, this book is just about two people. And my hope when you read this book is that once you get beyond seeing that these are two men in love, that you will forget that this is the same sex, and you will begin to root for the characters because they are so awesome.
Okay. Now, will this title be coming to audio?
Yes, it will. And it looks like Sean Krisden is going to,
Ooh.
it looks like he has agreed to do the audio. And, Sean is a wonderful person, and his schedule is packed. So I think we're going to be more toward the end of the year. But I did not want people to have to wait that long. So you will get the paperback, the Kindle, and the hardback. And I believe we have Wesley in this book. Wesley is, she's a giant. She's wonderful, and we're doing a multicast.
I was gonna ask about that. Okay.
hmm We're doing a multicast, and I'm thankful for Wesley. I'm thankful for Sean, and I'm thankful for the other actors. We're still in the process of negotiating which ones will accept, and I'm just thankful for Wesley, who, as I've said, is a giant, and so I appreciate her and her putting up with my craziness as I worry about this project getting off the ground and doing well, and so yes, we are coming to audio.
Wow. I guess is this an exclusive? Have you told
I
the
have not. I have
oh,
not. I
exclusive?
think somebody did ask me a while ago, would it be on Audible, but I never said, hey, it's going to be Sean Kristen. So this is
Wow, it's
exclusive.
an exclusive. That is
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. Okay. So this will be your first time not working with Jacoby as for male narrator, right?
And that is correct. And let me say, I'm going through withdrawals because if ever there was a literary boo of mine, it is him.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's your literary work husband at this
He really, but you know what? And as I tell you, I used to break up with him all the time because we always was talking about something or another, what we got to get done and all of that. But I am going through, I am, I am going through Jacoby withdrawals. Let
Is
me
he going
just
through
say,
withdrawals too?
he probably is not because he's who he is. He's great. He probably don't care one bit. He probably don't even know I'm brokenhearted. So you know how
Oh,
it goes.
gracious.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. Okay. When you announced the book Sweet Honesty and what it was about, that is not particularly my genre, but like I said
Right.
in the beginning of the podcast, you are my genre. You are a genre. And I like you.
Right.
I support you.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
like I will be reading slash supporting that book because it's you. And what I also appreciate about you and your storytelling is that I know that you're going to take care of these characters. I know that you're going to carry them with dignity and respect throughout the story, and you're not just, going into some type of
Shock factor. Right. You're absolutely right.
yeah. So
I'm not shooting for a shot. I know people are shocked, but I have not written this story as a shock factor.
yeah,
I
and
have
that,
written this story as this I love black men. And whatever they're doing, I like them.
yeah, and that's why I'm like, okay, this is a you thing. And like I said, I know you respect the characters, you respect the story, you take care of the process, and that's why, yeah, I'm like, okay, I can get with that for sure. So,
I appreciate you. You don't even know how much. I really do.
oh, thank you. Okay, my last question for you
Hmm.
is, where do you see your writing career in the next year? What do you see?
So I have a rigorous writing schedule, and I'm just now starting to admit that to myself. So
Mm.
what I plan, I've already written book two to Sweet Honesty, and because the audios will be out later, I plan on doing the fans the solid and letting book two fly on October 1st or between the 1st and the 15th of this year.
All
Um,
exclusives. I'm getting all the exclusives.
This is exclusive because I've not said this to anybody, so you are right.
Okay.
So I plan on doing book two and letting it go in October. It is already with my editor. She is working on it. Um, and then I am getting ready to go back to Ignite,
Oh,
and I'm
ooh.
going to do a book two for Ignite. And so with Ignite, I'm going to write a book two called Sedition, and we're probably going to rob some banks in New York.
You're gonna have
Um,
to.
right,
You're gonna have
right,
to. Yeah.
right. So I am going to be working on that, and then at the first of the year, I plan on only working on Unfortunately Francine because it keeps getting pushed out. So at the beginning of 2025, I will be working on book two in Unfortunately Francine and book three, and the novella Butch and Jules story will come up on a platform that I will be on with Alec called Prolific Works.
Okay.
Uh, and so, and that book is called Indiscretion. So that'll be Butch and Jules' story of how they met. And then I will give you Akil and Levi's story. And I will possibly um, pull another novella out of that. So next year will be all about Unfortunately Francine. And then when I finish that, I will do book three in this gay series, the Sweet Honesty romance, the gay romance series. And let me think here. So book one is called Sweet Honesty.
Mhm.
Book two is called Bittersweet, and
Mm.
book three is called Sweetest Taboo.
Ooh. Okay.
So, so book two has taken place between 1951 and 1954.
Okay.
It spanned those years, but book three will take place between 52 and 54.
Okay.
And so those three books will come together. And then I have Inseparable, which is Akil's story. And I have not thought of a title for Levi's story. And then I have um, Indiscretion. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You.
we are moving along.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
we are
really
moving
are,
along.
for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I think me and Truck and Josie are probably gonna just we're gonna head out to New York 1926 and see what we could get up to. Maybe 1927.
Yeah, I loved that book. I listed that book as one of my favorites of 2023. I loved that book.
Oh wow, you are
Yeah,
so sweet. And
yeah,
as I was writing it, I kept thinking, should I do this? And um, I was happy to buckle down and get that work done. And I was not planning on a second book, and I was going to close it out. And Alex said, I know you have a different ending for this book. And I said, but even if I do, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to write another one. And she said, do not just close it out. And so that's why Truck said, so where you say this bank is again?
yep, yep, yep,
And
yep.
so here I am in New York now. Yep.
People are gonna be happy. Do people know that Ignite is getting a second one?
I don't think it's not widely talked about. I think some people
Ah,
know if I've been to their book club, but I think when you do this podcast, I think people will know. But I
people.
don't. I've not been out to my group and said, "Hey, I'm doing another book." No, because
Oh,
that's
they're
why I've
gonna
been a
be
little
so
scarce on
excited.
Facebook. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
gonna be
So
so
I'm giving you a bunch of first,
I
huh?
know. I'm so excited about this. Oh man, my cheeks are hurting from smiling so much. Like real talk.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. Okay. Um, that was my last question for you. I could honestly ask you a ton more questions, but I'm not gonna hold you. Um, so how have you enjoyed this experience talking about your work and talking with me thus far? Have you enjoyed yourself?
I have absolutely enjoyed myself. And this was a soul searcher because as I was thinking about the questions, I remember thinking, I mean, she's on point. She got some real questions. I'm going to have to really think about myself now. So I
Yeah,
did enjoy myself. And I remember to my daughter said, do you want to go to dinner? I said, oh, no, I can't leave the house because I had to be where I could so she could interview me.
yeah,
And I wanted to make sure that I was where I need to be because, as I said, unless something has happened, Joan does not miss interviews. So I appreciate this and I have had a ball.
well, I appreciate you taking the time. I really do. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you've enjoyed yourself. So, one thing that I like to do with all of my podcasts is I like to play a game of sorts. Nothing too serious, just kind of keep it light to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, end off and, just kind of have a little fun with you. So I figured it would be nice and easy for you to do a game of this or that. So I'm going to give you two options and you're going to tell me which one you would prefer for yourself. So this or that. Have you done this or that before?
I have. I do get the, yep, I got you. I'm
Okay.
ready.
All right. So, would you rather be the smartest person in the world or the richest person in the world?
I'm gonna go with the richest person in the world.
You know what? And I typically don't jump in, but I would rather be the smartest person in the world because if I'm the smartest in the person in the world, I can figure out how to be rich. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and that might be true. You might be true, but
Like,
I think
it's
if
fun.
I'm the richest person in the world, I'm good.
That's true. I guess you don't have to be smart if you're the richest person in the world.
Okay.
Would you rather save 100 strangers or one loved one?
Man,
Mm. I said these are light, didn't I?
you did. I'm gonna have to try to save 100 strangers and the one loved one. I'm gonna have to try to do both. I can't even choose.
Well, gotcha. Would you rather see the future or change the past? That's a good one.
I think I would. The past is so definite. I know what happened there,
Mm,
and I think maybe I might go back and change the past. That might navigate the future.
mm.
It's kind of like you deciding to be smart so you could be rich.
Yeah. Let me see. Uh, hmm. Would you rather have logic or emotion? As far, hold on,
I'd rather have emotion.
emotion, words
Hmm.
or actions,
I'd rather have action.
passion or stability.
Ah, I'm 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 not really responsible. I'd rather have passion.
Okay. Predictability or excitement.
I'd rather have excitement.
Mhm. Growth or security.
I'd rather have security.
Money or love.
I'd rather have love.
Skill or popularity.
Skill.
Poor and happy or rich and miserable. Why is a lot of money ones here? Poor and happy
Right.
or rich and
I'm
miserable.
gonna have to go with poor and happy because I'm already rich from my first one, so I don't have to worry about.
Yep. Okay. Would you rather be cherished or respected?
I think I would rather be cherished because I think you're gonna get the respect if somebody cherishes.
Okay. Would you rather be misunderstood after death or forgotten after death? I don't like that one. Let's skip that one. I don't like that. I don't know why I kept that one in. Okay. No. Massive success by accident or modest success on purpose.
I think modest uh, success
I'm
on purpose, and I think that's what I'm experiencing.
okay.
Modest success on purpose. Yeah,
Would you rather be underestimated or overestimated?
I think I am underestimated. I think it's
Hmm.
probably gonna be underestimated. Yeah,
Okay, last one. Painful truth or comforting lie?
I'd rather a painful truth.
Mm, yeah, I don't know which one I would choose on that one.
Because I'm gonna tell you something: the truth don't stop being the truth because you don't
Yeah,
know
that's true. That is
it.
100% true. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so that was the last one of the this or that. It wasn't as light as I hoped it would be, even though I chose them, but I didn't think, once I'm saying them, I'm like, these really aren't that light. But it was fun
which
nonetheless.
I still think was fun because I liked your reaction to reading them. So this was still good.
Okay, so we are now at the end of the podcast, and I want to thank you again for joining. Do you have any closing remarks?
I look forward to everybody enjoying this sweet honesty, and I would ask that everybody read. and then do like you always do, inbox me and let me know what you think. I appreciate the readers. I appreciate the friends I've made along this journey. And I appreciate being asked to be on people's platform, and this in particular. And I just want to say thank you to all of the readers for the support. And as we roll into June, I think I'm ready. When y'all come and go, so why you do this? I think I'm ready.
Good, good, good. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone who has tuned in to watch this podcast with Joan Vassar. And I hope you have enjoyed it. And I hope to see you on the next one. Y'all have a good night. These earrings are heavy, child. I'll try and be cute.